Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will learn Tosfos Divrei Maschil v'Hayetzias Katani. Let's start by first seeing what part of the Gemara Tosfos is going to be discussing. So it's the part of the Gemara where we ask v'Hayetzias Katani. What happened was the Gemara gave its final answer to explain why is it that our Mishnah says Yetzias HaShabbos and counts 8 cases, and the Mishnah Masechta Shavuos says Yetzias HaShabbos and counts 4 cases. The Gemara answered that since our Mishnah is in Masechta Shabbos, it's the main place to discuss the dinim of Shabbos, so therefore it counts the chayiv cases of Yetzias and the pater cases of Yetzias, and that way we have a total of 8. However, the Mishnah Masechta Shavuos, since it's not the main place to discuss the topic of Shabbos, it only counts the chayiv cases, and as a result, there are only 4 cases. On that the Gemara asked, but there's still only 2, referring to the ani doing Haitzah and the usher doing Haitzah. And the Gemara answered, it's not just counting the chayiv cases of Haitzah, of the ani and the balabais, but also the chayiv cases of Achnasa, of the ani and the balabais. So we have 4 cases, Haitzah of the ani and Haitzah of the balabais, Achnasa of the ani and Achnasa of the balabais. On that the Gemara asked, V'hayetzias katani, but it says in the Mishnah in Shavuos, Yetzias HaShabbos shtayim shinarba. It's only counting Haitzahs, not Achnasas. And then our original question returns, if it's only counting Haitzahs and not Achnasas, and it's only counting Chayiv cases, then you only have 2. So that's the part of the Gemara that Tosfos is going to explain. So let's begin with the general outline. The Gemara asked, how can we say that Achnasas counted as some of the cases if it says Yetzias? So Tosfos is going to do 2 things. Number one, Tosfos will explain that the question is only on the Mishnah and Shavuos. We're not asking how could our Mishnah say Yetzias HaShabbos and count Achnasas. The question is only on the Mishnah and Shavuos saying Yetzias and counting Achnasas, and Tosfos will explain why. And by answering that, Tosfos will point out how this explanation, that the question is only on the Mishnah and Shavuos and not on ours, answers another question to us, which is, why didn't the Gemara ask V'hayetzias katani on the first answer? And we'll go through this in Tosfos. Let's begin. The Gemara asked, how can we say that Achnasas is counted as some of the cases if it says Yetzias? Explains Tosfos, and it's an arrow, there's no question here, he's just completing the information, he's supporting the information, he's explaining something on this information, which is that this question is only on the Mishnah and Shavuos. That only counts cases of Chayiv, and there are only 2 cases of Eitzah being Chayiv. The Mishnah and Shavuos, we said, being that it's not the main place to discuss the halachas of Shabbos, only counts Chayiv cases. If you're only counting Chayiv cases, there are only 2 Eitzahs that are Chayiv. And the only way to reach the number 4 is if we also include Achnasa. And that's where the question comes up, but it says Yetzias. How could it include Achnasa? However, in our Mishnah, we can find all 8 cases to be of Eitzah. You can find 8 cases of Eitzah if you're not limited to counting Chayiv. How do you find it? So let's present all of them. First we have 2. Tosfos explains it as in Shtayim Shein Arba. So what are the 2? 1 case of Chayiv and 1 case of Asa that brings to a Chi of Chatas. Tosfos is going to start off by explaining, we'll go through the case of the rich man. Tosfos says first the Ani, we'll do the Balabayas. So the rich man Chayiv, the case of Chayiv, and Asa that brings to a Chi of Chatas. Here we have where the rich man is Chayiv, he did the whole Malach of Eitzah. Here we have where the rich man did the Isser that brings to a Chi of Chatas. He picked it up and took it out, but the Ani then put it down. And that are 4, what are the 4 cases? That are 4, 1 case that's Asr that doesn't bring to a Chi of Chatas, and 1 case that's Mutter. Here we're going to show another 2 cases for the rich man. Here he picks it up, but the Ani takes it out and puts it down, and here where he does nothing whatsoever. So we have 4 cases. The Balabai is doing the whole Eitzah, the Balabai is picking it up and extending it out, but the Ani doing the Hanacha. Then case 3 where the Balabais picks it up and the Ani does the removing it from the Rishos and doing the Hanacha. And then the 4th case where the Balabais was present, although he did nothing, and therefore it's Mutter, but he was present, he was part of the case, where he stood there and the Ani removed it from his hand and put it down. Now, so there we go, where Tosfos explains to us that the question is only on the Mishnah and Shavuos and not on our Mishnah, because in our Mishnah it says Yetzias and counts 8, you could find 8 cases of Yetziyah. However, in Shavuos that says Yetzias and counts 4, but is limited to Chayiv cases, you can only find that if you also count Achnasas. Tosfos now continues and says, we have this for the rich man, like we just showed, and then for the poor man. Let's see the poor man doing the 4 cases. Here is where he did the entire thing. Here is where he did the Asi l'dei Chi of Chatas, because he did the Hitzah and the Hanacha. Now we have where it's just Asr, but it's not Asi l'dei Chi of Chatas, because all he did was the Hanacha. And then the last and final case where he was present but did nothing and therefore it's mutter. Tosfos points out that this works only according to the explanation of Riva, but not Rashi. Only Riva, who says that Asil L'Dei of Chatas is referring to the person who removes it from one rishus to the other in either direction, then you could explain it. However, according to Rashi, that says Asil L'Dei of Chatas refers to the person who did the Akira, this won't work out. And we're not going to explain that now. Maybe we'll put that in another class. Now, Tosfos points out that this explanation that he just presented, and he then supported as well. But the initial explanation that he presented, which is that the question of Yetzias Katani is only on the Mishnah and Shavuos, but not on our Mishnah, Tosfos says this explains another question. This will answer a question for us. This explanation answers a question, and that is, why didn't the Gemara ask Yetzias Katani on its first answer? The first answer was, our Mishnah counts 8 cases, because it counts Avis and Toldus, and the Mishnah and Shavuos counts 4 cases because it only counts Avis. Why don't we say V'hayetzias Katani? The answer is because now that we understand that our Mishnah could have 8 cases of Eitzah, so on our Mishnah counting 8 cases, there's no question. And on the Mishnah and Shavuos counting 4 cases of Aves, the question is not how could you include Achanasa. We're not thinking of including Achanasa. We said we're only counting Aves. Achanasa is a Tulda. The question is that if you're only counting Aves, then you don't have 4 Aves that should fit into the Mishnah. You have Eitzah, which is an Av, of the Ani and the Balabayas, the other, which when they're Chayiv, there's no other cases, unless they're going to be Pater, but the Mishnah could only count Chayiv cases. So we eliminated the extra cases because they're Pater, as opposed to Chayiv, but we never thought of including Achanasa, and therefore the question that we asked over here, Vayetzias Katani, cannot be asked on the first answer. So to summarize, Tosfos accomplished 2 things here. Number 1, he explained to us the question of Vayetzias Katani is only on the Mishnah and Shavuos, because the only way to find 4 cases that are chayiv is if you include achnasa, so you can ask Vayetzias Katani. But in our Mishnah, we did not ask Vayetzias Katani, because the fact that there's 8 cases of Eitzah is not a problem, because you can actually find 8 cases of Eitzah without including achnasa. And Tosfos went on to say that this explanation also resolves for us why the Gemara didn't ask Vayetzias Katani on its first answer. And the reason is because on the first answer, the Mishnah and Shavuos, we never thought of including in it Achanasa, and our Mishnah, like we explained, could have 8 cases of Eitzah.